Yes. Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. We are jumping right on into the president. He is live right now. The AP has the feed for us, and here is what the president is doing from the Oval Office, answering questions.
If you don't answer, essentially, there's a penalty to pay. Like, that's the end of the job.
Well, Musk has said that. The order itself doesn't say that. I think that's part of the confusion. Is he speaking for you when he says you'll be terminated?
Yeah, everybody speaks for me. I'm the one. I'll take responsibility. You know the old statement, the buck stops here, right? Famous statement. Well, I can say the same thing. The buck stops here. No, we have to find out if people are getting paid and they're not working. And, they have a problem. Let's say they have another job. And then they write in false statements. It's a big problem if they write in false statements. They may be working for somebody else, but getting paid by the U.S. government. And that would mean that they're not allowed to be doing that. They're not allowed to be working for us and be working for somebody else. We're paying them a lot of money. We're paying them. So we'll see. That solves that problem. Most people aren't willing to say that, we're doing this, and this, and this for the U.S. government, and yet they're at another job, because that's a big problem for them if they do that. So in some cases, they're not writing back, and if they don't write back, they end up eventually losing their job. We give them extensions, but that was something we thought about a long time ago. We give them extensions, but we'll see. We have to make sure, number one, that we have people, number two, that they're working, and number two, they're working for us, not for another company.
Is it true that President Zelensky is coming on Friday to meet with you, and is the mineral deal sorted out?
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that he's coming on Friday. Certainly, it's okay with me if he'd like to, and he would like to sign it together with me, and I understand that's a big deal, very big deal. And I think the American people, even if you look at polling, they're very happy because, Biden was throwing money around like it's cotton candy. And it's a very big deal. Look, it could be $1 trillion deal. It could be whatever, but it's rare earths and other things. And look, we're spending hundreds of billions of dollars on Ukraine and Russia fighting. A war that should have never, ever happened. That's a war that would have never happened if I were president. And it didn't happen for 4 years. People say, how do we know that it didn't happen for 4 years? Would have never happened. And nevertheless, this guy went into this situation and he spent money like nobody's ever seen, $350 billion. The other thing that we don't like is that Europe has spent $100 billion. We've spent $350 billion. Europe gets their money back because they spent it in the form of a loan. And we just gave them, whether it's 300 or 350 billion, nobody really knows. They can't even tell me the answer to that, but it means probably more than that. So what we're doing is now we're saying, look, we want to be secured. We want to get that money back. We're helping a country through a very, very big problem, a problem like very few people have had. Shouldn't have had this problem because it shouldn't have happened, but it did happen. So we have to straighten it out. But the American taxpayer now is going to get their money back plus.
Mr. President, yesterday with Emmanuel Macron, you said you had spoken to Putin about the idea of peacekeepers in Ukraine, that Putin was fine with it. The Kremlin, I guess, has said that that's actually unacceptable to them. What's real here?
That's not what I was told. But you're going to need some form of peacekeeping, so something will be done that's going to be satisfactory to everybody. We need peacekeeping too.
Any situation
It's
where American troops
it's actually something I did discuss, but a form of peacekeeping that's acceptable to everybody. Ultimately, we'll be able to agree on something, I'm sure.
With Ukraine and this mineral deal, what does Ukraine get in return, Mr. President?
$350 billion and lots of equipment, and military equipment, and the right to fight on, and originally the right to fight. Look, Ukraine, I will say, they're very brave and they're good soldiers, but without the United States and its money and its military equipment, this war would have been over in a very short period of time. In fact, I was the one that gave the javelins. You remember the famous javelins? That was me. That wasn't Obama. It wasn't Biden. It wasn't anybody else. It was me. And they wiped out a lot of tanks with those javelins. And the expression was that Obama gave sheets and I gave the javelins. That was a big deal at the time. It wiped out. That was the beginning when people said, wow, that's something. Well, that was American equipment. Without American equipment, this war would have been over very quickly. And American money too. I mean, a lot of money.
So
When you-
that-
Mr. President.
That war-fighting equipment and the ammunition, that's sustained going forward for Ukraine, and how long is it sustained?
Well, it could go forward for a while, and maybe until we have a deal with Russia. Look, we need to have a deal with Russia, otherwise it's going to continue. But now when Americans put up their money, the taxpayer money, and the president approves it, we're getting our money back in some form. But it could go on for a while, or it could be settled quickly. I think it's going to be settled quickly. I spoke with President Putin. I think he wants to settle it, and wants to get on with life. It's horrible. What's happening, horrible. Thousands of soldiers a week are being killed, and others too, but especially on the battlefield. Thousands a week are being killed, and we want that to end.
When you spoke to, Mr. President, when you
Yeah,
spoke to
Brian?
Yes, okay. Real quickly, Carolyn Levitt, your press secretary, sent an earthquake through that briefing room earlier today announcing that the WHCA would not have any
Womp womp.
control over placing
White House
media in the
correspondence.
seats. The briefing room, just want to get your thoughts on that. And
Try to
also,
boost this
Carolyn,
volume a bit for us.
it's trending on X, people are talking about it, get your thoughts.
Well, we're now calling those shots. As you know, we won that lawsuit right there. See the Gulf of America, which is a beautiful name. Most people agree. I don't know.
It is beautiful.
You know, AP has been terrible. Look, I think they're radical left. I think they're third-rate reporters. I know the specific young lady that works on the account is terrible. She's a radical left lunatic, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
They don't treat us fairly. That's number one. And number two, they had no right to do that. This is the Gulf of America. And if you look at that shoreline, look at that shoreline.
We hug
Look,
the whole
from
body.
Florida, well,
Beautiful
most of it
hugs.
is. It's called America, and vast majority, like big numbers. So I'm just admiring it as I look at it.
Beautiful.
I'm getting teary-eyed, but I don't want you to say Trump broke down and started crying. No, how beautiful is that? Look at the shoreline. Look at that.
It is. Look.
That's
Can I-
America.
Can I shift our attention to Canada real quick?
Yes, please.
Last week, I spent some time with two government officials for Canada. I was asking them how realistic is it that Canada would be the 51st state?
Yeah.
And they told me there is a path. Alberta is first, and if they sign on, Saskatchewan would follow, and then you go west to British Columbia. There is a movement in Canada to join us. Want to get your thoughts on that and how that's proceeding?
So it's true. Thank you, Brian. It's true. A lot of people in Canada are liking becoming our beautiful, cherished 51st state. They'll have to pay much lower taxes. They'll have the ultimate security. You know, they don't pay very much for security right now because they rely on us, which is really unfair to us. They make cars that we could make, and they send them back into the United States. They make a lot of things, including the sending of oil and everything. We don't need their oil. We don't need their lumber. In fact, we're going to be freeing up, and I've asked Howard Lutnick to get that done with Lee and everybody, Lee Zeldin, environmental. We're freeing up our forests. We're going to be able to take down trees. Right now, you know, we're so restricted environmentally. We're going to be freeing it up with an emergency order. We have an emergency order, and we're going to be freeing up our forests. We have more forests than almost anybody, and great lumber, great trees. We don't need anybody's trees. We don't need trees from Canada or anybody else. In fact, we have to put the slits, as they call them, the area, you know, 50, 60-yard area in between areas of trees. It stops the fires. And frankly, California should have been doing that for years. It's almost getting late. They're going to run out of forests the way they're going. What a shame. And by the way, the water is flowing in California. I hope you people have seen it. But the water is flowing. Do you have a picture of that? I'd hold it up. Do you have a picture of that? Get a picture of it, please. You know, we had a little skirmish in California. I can't believe we had to do that. But we opened up the water in California. The water was flowing into a place called the Pacific Ocean, which for the Pacific Ocean is only a drop. But for us, it's more water than we can use in California. So I'll get you some photographs, but it's a beautiful sight. The water is flowing in California. Beautiful water from the Pacific Northwest and beyond. And it flows down, and instead of being routed out to the Pacific Ocean, and this has been going on for 20 years more in order to take care of a certain species of fish, which wasn't doing very well without water, I can tell you. So that's a big deal. It's like not reported. It's incredible. But California has a lot of water. That's going to take care of farmers. It's going to wetten up the land. And it's going to go all the way down to Los Angeles, where they have curfews on water, where they have all sorts of blocks on water. You can only use so much. We're going to put until just recently, they were going to put a number of gallons per person living in a house in Beverly Hills on water. You're not going to have that problem anymore. Do you have a picture? Let me just see what that looks like. How beautiful is that? Look at that beautiful water flowing. That's coming in the dikes.
What happened? AP, no! All right,
another
there it is.
Means of transportation, an environmental problem with clean water.
Beautiful.
If this water were there, you wouldn't have had those fires. You had sprinklers. They make people put sprinklers in the ceiling of a home, and they had no water in them. With this, they would have had a lot of water in them. They would have all been full. That would have had you would have had a whole different deal down there. You probably wouldn't have had a fire, but if it was, it would have been small, would have been put out. You had the fire hydrants not working in California. So it's a beautiful site. These are canals that were built. These were all built. And you saw them for years. They were empty, concrete. They call them the V-shapes or the half pipes. And they're shaped different forms, and they rush down through the farm areas where the farmers can take it and down to Los Angeles. And they were sitting empty for years. And now look at that. Look
Beautiful.
at that way it looked. It wasn't easy. We had to be very unfriendly to get into those areas. We opened it
Cheers,
up.
my friends. Hydrate yourselves.
Mr. President.
I essentially attacked California. Can you believe it? I attacked California. Let's go.
At the outset of your administration, sir, you committed to ending the weaponization of government, to holding those accountable who participated in the weaponization of government.
Hold it. This is a good one.
Yeah.
Is everybody listening?
Yes.
Deranged Jack Smith. We're going to call it the Deranged Jack Smith signing or
Yes.
bill. Go ahead.
One law firm that provided pro bono legal services to the special counsel's office under Jack Smith's leadership was Covington and Burling. As a result of those actions, we're now going to be suspending and putting under review the security clearances for the attorneys and employees at that firm who worked with Jack Smith's team. And we're going to continue holding the people who were responsible for the weaponization of government and who supported it accountable for what they did.
And you'll be doing this with other firms as time goes by, right?
We're looking at sort of the whole panoply of options.
The weaponization of our system by law firms.
Amazing.
Even pro bono work they're doing just in order to clog up government, stop government. And nobody knows about it more than me.
Yeah.
And hopefully that'll never happen again.
So the Covington and Burlington?
Covington and Burlington.
Beautiful. Covington and Burlington.
Mr. President, may I ask you a
Revote!
question about Europe? So long term, do you plan to maintain?
No, weaponization
the
right
number
now.
of US troops
Wait, I just
stationed?
want to savor this one, please.
Yeah, thank you.
Who would like this pen?
Stop.
I'll take it.
Hey, why don't you send it to Jack Smith,
Yeah!
a deranged person?
Yes! Beautiful, Mr. President.
Targeting an individual firm or individuals who aren't Jack Smith for
Excuse
his
me.
actions.
I've been targeted for 4
Yeah,
years.
excuse me.
Longer than that. So you don't tell me about targeting. I was the target of corrupt politicians for 4 years, and then 4 years after that. So don't talk to me about targeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, go
Mr.
ahead.
President, there are approximately 2 million federal employees right now. By the end of your term, what do you expect that number to be? What would you like that number to be?
Well, it'll be lower, but I can't tell you. Everybody knows I ran on downsizing government, but making government better. I ran on tariffs and making our country rich, and that's what's going to do. We're going to be doing something else that's going to be very, very good. We're going to be selling a gold card. You have a green card. This is a gold card. We're going to be putting a price on that card of about $5 million, and that's going to give you green card privileges plus. It's going to be a route to citizenship, and wealthy people will be coming into our country by buying this card. They'll be wealthy, and they'll be successful, and they'll be spending a lot of money and paying a lot of taxes and employing a lot of people. And we think it's going to be extremely successful. Never been done before or anything like this, but it's something that we're going to be putting out over the next, would you say, 2 weeks? Do you want to
2
say a
weeks.
couple of words about it?
Sure.
Mr. President, are there
Wait a
any
minute,
requirements in that gold card?
Yeah, exactly.
So
Go
the
ahead.
EB-5 program was really, you lend some money, but it was full of nonsense, make-believe, and fraud, and it was a way to get a green card that was low-priced. So the president said, rather than having this sort of ridiculous EB-5 program, we're going to end the EB-5 program. We're going to replace it with the Trump Gold Card, which is really a green card gold, so they'll be able to pay $5 million to the U.S. government. They'll have to go through vetting, of course. We're going to make sure they're wonderful, world-class global citizens. They can come to America. The president can give them a green card, and they can invest in America, and we can use that money to reduce our deficit. Why do we give out lotteries of green cards? Why do we give out EB-5 for green cards? The president of the United States understands that the right answer is, why don't we eliminate the deficit of the United States of America instead?
The gold card, well, millions, but the gold card will bring in with it people that create jobs, very high-level people. I think companies will pay to get people in. For instance, you today graduate from the Wharton School of Finance or Harvard or Stanford or any college, and nobody knows if you can even go to work for a company. So Apple and all these companies that want to get people to be working for them will be able to buy a card, and for the people that are number one in their class at top schools, I see that as one of the things. But generally speaking, it'll be people with money and people that create jobs, and they won't have to pay any tax on income outside of the United States, which they're not paying right now. They're not citizens, but they'll have to pay if they create jobs in the United States. They'll pay full taxes like everybody else. So you're getting big taxpayers, big job producers, and we'll be able to sell maybe 1 million of these cards, maybe more than that. And if you add up the numbers, they're pretty good. As an example, 1 million cards would be worth $5 trillion. $5 trillion.
Wow.
And if you sell 10 million of the cards, that's a total of $50 trillion. Well, we have 35 trillion in debt. That'd be nice. So we'll see. But it could be great. Maybe it will be fantastic. We have it all worked out from the legal standpoint. It's totally legal to do. Hasn't been done before. It's been done in many different forms. We give them away. Why should we give them away? We shouldn't give them away.
No.
And I think it's something very exciting. I think it's potentially just something that we're all very excited about. So it's a gold card. It's somewhat like a green card, but at a higher level of sophistication. It's a road to citizenship for people. And essentially people of wealth or people of great talent, where people of wealth pay for those people of talent to get in, meaning companies will pay for people to get in and to have long-term status in the country.
Interesting.
And I think it's something we're very, very happy about. Would you have anything to say about that?
Well, many other countries, by the way, do this, including, of course, your 51st state does that.
And the money's earmarked for deficit reduction?
It may be earmarked for deficit, but it actually could be more money than that. I mean, if you did 10 million, you'd have $15 trillion left over. But generally, it's going to be paid down debt, yes.
Do you need Congress for this? Do you think you need them
No,
to
we
pass
don't
a
need
law?
Congress, no, because we're not doing citizenship, we're doing the card.
I see.
It's a path to citizenship, a very strong path to citizenship, but we're not doing the citizenship. For that, I'd have to get Congress.
And would all countries be eligible for this gold card?
Depends. The countries largely, the people will be vetted very carefully.
Mr. President, on Ukraine, would you provide military support for Ukraine in the future under a peace agreement?
Say it again louder.
Would you provide military support for Ukraine in the future as part
You mean
of
like
a peace
security?
agreement? Yeah.
Well, people are going to do it. I think Europe will largely be responsible for that.
But
European countries will be responsible.
But Macron asked for a U.S. backup.
Well, we'll see. I mean, right now we're just in the process of negotiating. We've pretty much negotiated our deal on raw earth and various other things. We'll be looking at that security. You're talking about general security for Ukraine later on. I don't think that's going to be a problem. There are a lot of people that want to do it. And I spoke with Russia about it. They didn't seem to have a problem with it. So I think they understand. They're not going back in. Once we do this, they're not going back in.
On that gold card,
Aircraft.
RFK Jr. is in the
US
House.
provide, for instance, air defense?
Well, I just told you, right now we're not providing anything. You know, it's about Europe, too. Europe put in $100 billion, and we put in $350 billion. It's not a fair thing. You know, we would normally say, and I say it now anyway, but we want equalization. They should put up actually more money than us because they're right there. We have an ocean in between. But we've had very good talks with Russia. We've had very good talks with Ukraine, and we think it maybe will come to an end and we'll stop killing young people all over the battlefield and elsewhere.
On Europe, so do you plan to maintain heavy military presence in Europe in the long term, like tens of thousands of troops?
We'll be
You won't
involved.
withdraw some?
We'll be involved in Europe. We're involved in Europe now. Europe is our friend. They take advantage of us on trade. We don't like that. What the EU does, we don't like that. But we'll solve that the old-fashioned way. We'll give them the same reciprocal numbers. You know, we're talking about a reciprocal tax. You know that. And if they charge us, we charge them. Right now, they charge us much, much more than we charge them. And they have non-monetary taxes also and tariffs. And we're going to change that. It's all changing. It's all changing. We're not going to be the people that we were. We had people in this office sitting right at this desk or another model of this desk, because as you know, the other desk is right now being refurbished.
Is Steve Witkoff delaying his trip to the Middle East?
No, not that I know of. No, Steve. And the Middle East has been great. Saudi Arabia has treated us really well. They really have. And I think Qatar has treated us very well too. They want to get that whole mess ended in the Middle East. You know, we don't even talk about that anymore. You guys haven't asked one question about the Middle East, but the Middle East seems to be doing relatively well.
may I ask about the Middle East, sir, about the Middle East? For months, even before you were elected in November, you've spoken about your desire to free all of those hostages that have been held by Hamas since October the 7th, a year and a half ago. And just a few weeks ago, you gave an ultimatum. You said if they're not all released by noon on February the 15th, there would be hell to pay. Is Hamas thumbing their nose at you, Mr. President?
No, I think the opposite. So, as you know, they weren't going to release any more hostages. And I said there's going to be hell to pay. And then they agreed that they were going to release the hostages that they had agreed to release, plus an extra one. And so that you could say that was a big difference. But I said it from that point, it's up to Bibi Netanyahu and Israel. I may have taken a different stance. But they did release, they went back to releasing the hostages. But if you remember, they said we weren't going to release any. They've totally ended it. And I said, well, they're not going to release any. They'll be held to pay. And but the rest is really up to him. What I may have done it differently than him. It's not my decision, it's his decision. But they did release all of those hostages. So.
Mr. President, when you spoke to Vladimir Putin, did he raise or did you discuss at all the possibility of a minerals deal on the Ukrainian land that Russia now controls?
I didn't discuss
Russia?
Got Bobby
I'd like
right
to buy
there.
minerals on Russian land too, if we can. The rare earth. They have very good rare earth also. They both do. I would say that. And oil and gas. Look, it's a great thing if we sell this. It's great for Russia too, because we can do deals there. They have very valuable land that isn't utilized. So something like that could take place, yeah.
Have you put raising or lifting sanctions against Russia on the table as your
No, we haven't lifted any sanctions on
Is it
anybody.
on the table as part of any negotiation?
AP struggling. They're mad that they got kicked out of the Oval Office. Apparently
Well, I
they're
guess
in
it
there
will
today.
be at some point, but right now,
Oligarch be eligible for a gold card?
yeah, possibly. Hey, I know some Russian oligarchs that are very nice people. It's possible. They're not quite as wealthy as they used to be. They're not as wealthy as they used to be. I think they can afford. I think they can afford $5 million.
So they have
No, a lot of people are going to want
Yet they would be eligible
to. A lot of people are going to want to be in this country, and they'll be able to work and provide jobs and build companies and pay taxes. All of those things. It's an incredible. It's an incredible thing. I mean, this is the group that is the first to hear it. Nobody's heard about it. Nobody ever thought about it. But we've been thinking about it very, very strongly over the last week. And I was going to announce it sometime next week, and I figured, why not? We have a lot of cameras blazing right now. We might as well do it now. We'll have Caroline announce it the next time. No, it's a great thing. The gold card. Remember the words, the gold card. Somebody said, can we call it the Trump gold card? I said, if it helps, use the name Trump. I'll give it to you for free.
I like
Mr.
it.
President, you probably just launched 10,000 stories. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on what Russian oligarchs you know
I
or
know.
don't
Isn't
know?
it interesting how many stories we do tell? And they all turn out to be true, and they all turn out to be ultimately correct. Trump was right about everything. Do you have one of those Trump was right about everything hats? I'm going to give it to this gentleman. Get me one of them.
But they're all going to be vetted. Everybody who comes in gets vetted, okay? They get vetted, so you got to, We're going to begin in 2 weeks.
About 2 weeks. The sale will start in about 2 weeks.
Mr. President, do you see a more active role for Zelensky now, given the status?
I hope so. I mean, look, I think that we want to get that country back on its feet. And right now, it's been destroyed. And so, here, give me this here. Give me all of them. Look.
Take that and print it.
Trump was right about everything. It just came in. Somebody sent, I said, this was sent in by a fan. I said, I think we should make some of them, right? But we were, pretty much. You want one?
I'll pass.
Are you allowed to take one?
Probably
Because
not.
he'll consider it. I know him
President,
well.
I'll take one.
He's sort of a stiff. Yeah, Brian, you're not a stiff. He's sort of a stiff guy. He'll take other things, but not a free hand.
Always say yes to the president. Always say yes to the
Would
president.
anybody like one?
Mr. President, an easy question perhaps for you. Maybe it's difficult. I'm going to ask you this question about the
Who do you work for?
I work for 2 news organizations.
Who?
I work for 2 news organizations.
Yeah, who are they?
I work for Gray Television, America's second largest broadcaster, and I work for iHeartRadio. So there you go. But let me ask you the easier, tough question, Mr. President. The Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl. Are they being extended an invitation?
They will be. We haven't yet, but we will be. I thought it was a great performance by them. And absolutely, they'll be extended that invitation. Would you do that right away, by the way? We'll do it right away. We're going to do it sometime today. And they deserve to be down here, and we hope to see them. We have a lot of teams. We just had the great hockey team, as you know, Florida come here. We have many of the great athletes come that win things.
What's the main obstacle holding up this PGA Tour Live Golf?
Well, they have to get together. They've had a lot of discussion back and forth. They both are meaning well, and a deal will ultimately happen. I think it'll happen pretty quickly. It'll be nice to see the golfers, the best golfers, be able to play against each other.
What's your role been in this whole process?
Just to help expedite it. Tiger was here. Adam Scott was here. Jay Monahan was here the other day. Just to really help expedite it. We had Yasser here from Saudi Arabia, great guy. These are all great people, and they want to work it out. So if I can help them work it out, I don't get anything out of it. If I can help them work it out. I just think golf, it's very much of an individual sport, and you want to see the best players playing against each other, not playing in 2 different locations, right?
What's going to be more challenging, a PGA Live deal or a Russia-Ukraine deal?
I think the PGA deal is much more complicated.
Sir, may I ask you the Middle East question, if I may? What's your take on what's happening in the West Bank and what Israel is
Well,
doing
it's
there?
some movement up there that a lot of people are concerned
A
about.
lot of foreign policy.
And
man.
there's
All
been a
over.
lot of Israeli movement. They're up there for a reason. All of a sudden, maybe they're not feeling so good about that. So that would be terrible. I hope that doesn't happen. But there is movement up there that nobody knew about. Right? You know that, right?
Yeah, and when you say, are you concerned about it as well?
I'm concerned about everything. I want the world to be peaceful. When I left here, we had no war. We had defeated ISIS in less than 4 weeks. In fact, I took the general that defeated ISIS and I put him in charge of the whole ball game, because that's what we want. We want winners. Raisin Cane, Raisin. When I heard that name, I said, I like that name. That's the kind of general I like. So we'll see. But he was great. He's a great soldier. Not a politician, a soldier, a real soldier. You know that, Brian. This guy was the real. This guy's the
story a million times.
Yeah, this guy's the real deal.
He is.
And I think he's going to do a great job. But think of it, we had no wars, we had no problems, we had no inflation, we had no problems. And then all of a sudden you have October 7th in Israel, which was horrible. And then you see what happened with Ukraine. Russia would have never gone in if the election weren't rigged. It was a rigged election. The 2020 election was rigged. And we got out of it. And you see what happened. You see what happened to our country. Inflation, Afghanistan, that horrible withdrawal from Afghanistan. I think when Russia saw what happened in Afghanistan, they said, wow, it's a paper tiger. We're not a paper tiger. We are the strongest military force in the world. And by the way, Pete Hegseth is doing a great job. But we didn't have wars. We didn't have inflation. We had a strong border. We had everything going good. And then Biden got in, and he's, my opinion, the worst president in the history of our country. I think Jimmy Carter was a very happy man when he passed away 2 weeks ago.
What are you expecting at the cabinet meeting tomorrow?
It's going to be a cabinet meeting, and I'll preside. Unlike Biden, I'll preside over my own cabinet meeting.
Mr. President, how would you compare your cabinet in your second term to your cabinet that you had in your first term?
Well, I had some great people my second term. I think this is deeper. I think it's better because it's deeper. I had some people that I didn't really like too much in my cabinet, but I didn't know Washington then. I was a New York person. I knew New York intimately, but I had to rely on people. I had great people. Look, we got the biggest tax cuts in history. I rebuilt the military. I mean, we did so much. We did unbelievable. Even right to try. Somebody was saying today they were saved by right to try. We did right to try medically. We did transparency medically. That was a big thing, but Biden canceled that one. He didn't cancel right to try, which is interesting. He didn't cancel Space Force. He was going to cancel Space Force. Space Force is turning out to be invaluable. Amazing. We created Space Force. But think of it, we rebuilt our entire military, and now we're going to have to patch it up a little bit again because of what's happened. No, this was a grossly incompetent administration. The only thing they were good at was cheating in elections and the weaponization of government. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Russ.
Thank you.
Thank you, Russ. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
What's up? RFK Jr.'s in the house. And okay, that's it. So the feed looks like that was from NBC. We had the AP that kicked that off for us. We had one order that was signed, and boy, oh boy, was that a big one. In fact, I've got further reading on that. So Trump came out, that executive order was responding, I believe, to this story exactly, telling us, remember, Jack Smith disclosed that he got a big, fat, whopping, disgusting gift of $140,000. We made a video about this, talked about it whenever the story came out a while ago, on Valentine's Day, nonetheless. Yeah, big, fat Valentine's Day gift of 140 G's, which means if I could speculate that it was a lot more than that, okay? I don't know what kind of multiplier you want to give to that. I don't know if it's a 2x multiplier, 3x multiplier, 10x multiplier. They had to, mark down the hard, heavy lifting things of like filed this one. But all of the other hours of research and all the off the clock things, they didn't bill for those things. So that number is probably a lot bigger. Okay. So $140,000 is what they reported and what disgusting, illegitimate Jack actually disclosed. Now, it's not clear why Jack got outside legal advice since he was allegedly a special counsel, even though he wasn't, according to Judge Eileen Cannon, a federal judge. But remember this story and remember the law firm. They called the law firm out today during this executive order signing. Covington and Burling provided the representation, at least $140,000 in so-called pro bono legal services from this prominent Washington law firm. And according to the executive order, they must have some other attorneys in there who are interfacing with the federal government, using their security clearances to get access for what? We don't really know what. And Jack Smith, as we know, is illegitimate and never should have been prosecuting Trump in the first place. All of it orchestrated by the Democrats via Joe Biden's White House and Attorney General. Covington and Burlington provided representation. A spokesperson for Covington declined to comment. Two of the Covington lawyers representing Smith called Peter Koski, and Lanny Brewer also did not respond to messages. So there you go. We got some names of folks who are definitely losing their license, or their clearance rather. It's not clear precisely why Smith sought outside legal advice, but Trump repeatedly railed against Smith. So he said, right, maybe they should be investigated for breaking the law and abusing their office. First reported by the Wall Street Journal, no pardon was issued for them. Smith has ties to several prominent lawyers at Covington, the law firm with the largest presence in D.C. Wow, so it's a big firm. Brewer, Covington's vice chair, served as head of the Justice Department's criminal division, from 2009 to 2013, and recruited Smith to take the pivotal role of the chief of the department public integrity section. Okay, so these two are like bros. Brewer has repeatedly defended Smith in interviews. Jack's not political at all. He's straight down the middle. Yeah, right. Covington is also home to a number of other prominent Justice Department officials. Look who else lives there. Barack Obama's first Attorney General, Eric Holder. Yeah. Another Covington partner is called Alan Weingrad, U.S. Attorney for Eastern District of New York. During part of Smith's tenure, the Justice Department appears to have approved Smith's request under a regulation issued in 2023 that allows government employees to set up legal defense funds, or take such services for free if it's related to their current work. So maybe that's what it's for. So this law firm, in other words, was representing a government worker called Jack Smith, who was using them to get advice of counsel, essentially, about whether he was engaging in criminal conduct by prosecuting President Trump. Okay, if you're a prosecutor and you have to go get counsel about whether what you're doing is legal or not, here's a tip. Not legal. You shouldn't be doing that thing. If it's borderline, well, I don't know. I mean, I might go to jail if I prosecute the president. Why? Because you made up evidence and fabricated search warrants and used this evidence to show this evidence and all this other stuff. Like, for example, one of Jack Smith's lawyers called Jay Bratt impliedly threatening defense counsel. Hey, you should get your client to flip and go against Trump. Otherwise, you're not going to get that judgeship position you want, defense lawyer Stanley Woodward. That type of stuff, is that what he's talking about? Because they're putting pressure to make their case? It's criminal behavior, and he's going to lawyer up for it. And he got 140 G's for it, at least, probably many times more than that. So these lawyers now just got ice cold by Donald Trump, the president of the United States, who the American people reelected unequivocally to end this garbage. So shout out to them. We're excited to see that happen. Lots of good stuff there. And that's a fun way to start the day. Now, we've also got some other stuff that is just hot today, including a senator's wife. Whoa, big one. A senator's wife exposed in the government grift. You know who this guy is. Sheldon Whitehouse, a senator for Rhode Island, somebody who has been accused of being a racist because he has close associates who attend mostly white or all white clubs in his home state. Now, what happened in today's story is that an agency called FACT, F-A-C-T, the Foundation for Accountability and Civic Trust, has now busted him. Says, oh, buddy boy, your wife's so-called Ocean Conservancy Group has been getting a lot of money, and maybe you shouldn't have voted on legislation that would fund her because you're a senator. And so this is the story from them. They sent a full letter on it, but this got published today. Said, yesterday, the nonpartisan ethics watchdog called the Foundation for Accountability and Civic Trust, called FACT, filed a complaint requesting the Senate Select Committee on Ethics in the Congress investigate and take appropriate action on Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island. He appears to have violated the Senate ethics rules on conflicts of interest by advocating and voting for legislation as a senator that resulted in nearly $7 million being paid in the fall of 2024. It's like 1/4 of the year, $7 million to the organization his wife works for. Incredible. Now, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse's wife, called Sandra Whitehouse, who has a whole story of her own, as we've talked about here before, we've pointed out that Whitehouse has come under criticism for being a member of a whites-only beach club. He says, no, I'm not a member. But people say, well, is your wife? You're like a guest of your wife. Okay, so you're not a member, but is that just because you have somebody else covering for your membership? Here was this story published in 2021, if you recall. Whitehouse denied on Wednesday that he's a member of an exclusive Newport Beach club, Newport Beach, very white, accused of only admitting white people, and insisted that the organization does have non-white members. He's like, nuh-uh, there's one black guy, I think he's black maybe. In a lengthy statement, Whitehouse said that he would not ask his wife or any of his other relatives who hold membership at the Bailey's Beach Club to resign for 2 reasons. He said, well, first, they are on the right side of pushing for improvements. You know, they're members of this white club, but like they want other minorities to be here. So it's okay because they're not racist in the racist club. So they should stay. Second, and more importantly, he said, my relationship with my family is not the only one in which I tell them what to do. While Whitehouse has said he has no membership to resign, he did note that he belongs to another local sailing club that does lack diversity. Well, I'm not a member of that racist club. Are you a member of that one? Oh, yeah. But that's a sailing club. Are there any black people or anybody else there? No. All right. But he said, you know, I'm working on it, though. Failing to address the sailing club's lack of diversity is squarely on me. I'm a senator, and something for which I am sorry. Now, I commit to working with the club and the community to build a more inclusive membership and to better connect with the local community. Yeah. So he's like going to go find some minority people out there. He's like, you guys like sailing? Like, not really. He's like, you sure? Please? You don't want to come and like come get on a sailboat or something? Whitehouse launched a firestorm last week when he was approached by a reporter who said, are there any minority members of the club now? Said, I think the people who are running the place are still working on that. Sorry, it hasn't happened yet. I'm like, no, we got no one else here. Just a bunch of white people. The reporter then characterized the club as all white. He said, should these clubs continue to exist? Whitehouse, who is apparently associated with racist houses for whites, says it's a long tradition in Rhode Island. There are many of them. Whitehouse answered without challenging the reporter's description. He says, well, we need to work our way through the issues. And then he's like, well, the reporter caught me off guard. I had no idea. He knew I was a member of this racist club. Wasn't prepared for the question. He said, well, I shouldn't have accepted the premise. You know, I checked the assertion and I was assured the assertion was wrong. There is diversity in the club. I went and checked, but it is a priority. He's like, we do have somebody, right? Like, who do we have? Do we have anybody here? Imagine that conversation. Hey, it's a senator just calling to see if we have anybody here because I want to make sure I'm not racist. Can you please give me the official directory so I can just make sure? It's like, it's the most racist thing ever, right? But in a separate statement to the Providence Journal, Bailey's Beach Club described the all-white characterization as inaccurate and false. Over the many years, have many people come, happens all over the place. It's private. We're not going to give you any details about this, but that's what they all hang out with. Now, so the wife allegedly was associated with that, and he is saying, I'm not going to dictate to her what she can do and where she should go. So this looks like it's the wife. This is Sandra when she was being sworn in, when the husband was being sworn in, rather. As we see, there's corrupt Joe Biden there, who, I don't know if he was more functional then than obviously he is now. And isn't it interesting how he's just totally disappeared? Like Kamala, they give her a shopping cart or whatever, a grocery basket. Like, yeah, here, like, go out there. You're going to run for governor or whatever. Joe's just gone. Haven't even heard from him. He's just ice creamed up, thrown in a closet somewhere. But this is the wife, Sandra. And so the report from Fact tells us that she has worked for the advocacy group called Ocean Conservancy since 2008. And I've just got total, I like the ocean. I like conserving the ocean. I'm not for like nuking the whales or something. But I have a doubt that this group moves the needle in any real way to conserve the ocean. If I just had to speculate, if you went in there and you're like, show me what everybody does here all day. How much of the ocean is being conserved? What is your deliverable on this? Because there's only so much they can do, right? It's a big problem. So anyways, so they're there. So since then, Ocean Conservancy, and you can't challenge these groups because lest you come out as being opposed to conserving the ocean, has been awarded, check it out, 19 government grants worth $14.2 million. It's important to note that nearly half of this $14 million was given to the group in the fall of 2024 alone. Okay, Trump's coming in. Everybody is ransacking the Treasury. It's a disgusting grift. Gobs of money being just siphoned out the door. A $5.2 million grant in September 2024 alone. A $1.7 million grant in December 2024. Senator Whitehouse directly supported and voted for the legislation that led to those grants. Now, in addition to these apparent conflicts, White House has a long history of working on legislation being lobbied for by the organizations tied to his wife. Senate ethics rules prohibit that. They have to disclose when it's a conflict and when it has emerged. Now, we'll come back to Kendra's statement on this, but here is the official letter that got sent into the Senate. The Senate Select Committee on Ethics. Get the following letter from FACT. Shout out to them for digging this one out. To James Langford, chair. You remember him from that event when he was trying to shove down our gullets the border bill that was disgusting, that was going to codify like 4,000 illegals every day. Remember that crap that he tried to do? Anyways, he's getting a letter. Hopefully he does something about this. Says the Foundation for Accountability and Civic Trust, FACT, senators, Ann Coons, remember him? Says is a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting accountability, ethics, and transparency in government and civic arenas. We request that the Ethics Committee investigate Senator Sheldon Whitehouse to determine whether he violated the ethics rules. Here are the facts. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse's wife, called Sandra Whitehouse, has worked for the advocacy group Ocean Conservancy since 2008. According to tax filings, Ocean Conservancy had paid Whitehouse through her consulting firm, which is called Ocean Wonks, LLC. She's like, well, I'm an ocean wonk. Since 2017, and paid her directly prior to that. Somebody was like, you got to set up an LLC for this. You got to sort of insulate yourself from that with some liability protections. So since 2008 then, Ocean Conservancy has been awarded 19 government grants worth approximately $14.2 million. However, nearly half of this $14 million was given to the group in the fall of 24 alone, all of which Senator Whitehouse directly voted for. And all of this is being footnoted if you haven't been following. You can see Sandra Whitehouse. They've got her LinkedIn over there. They say, oh, you work for them? Ocean Wonks. Great, your whole company. Thanks for posting it on your LinkedIn. IRS form. They went out. They pulled up the Ocean Conservancy. They showed she got paid some money. USAspending.gov, another link. Oh, yeah. Ocean Conservancy got federal grants awarded. Interesting there. More federal grants awarded in fiscal year 2024. All this money coming in, she got paid, and she works for the entity. Now, White House voted on it. Now, in September 2024, Ocean Conservancy received a $5.2 million federal grant from the, quote, National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, the NOAA, for marine debris cleanup, right? As we always say, what are they actually doing? $5.2 million to remove large debris from U.S. coastal waters. Oh my gosh. So like 5 dudes went out with some of those like trash pokers. Let me put it in the, wow, 5 million. I wonder what they did. Actually, I want to click on this one and just see. Hang on a second. We definitely don't want to do that. Let's open this in a new tab and see what we've got here. What did their press release say that they're doing? Okay, so they're going to come out here. Did they hire like construction? Today, we got announced its recommendation of $5.2 million in funding to remove large debris. Ghost gear, large fishing net, gear balls, tangled messes. This 4-year grant is going to enable Ocean Conservancy, so it's over 4 years, so $1 million a year, to conduct cleanups and gear removals and implement ghost gear prevention best practices in Alaska, California, and Florida. We're incredibly grateful for this money. We're sure you are. Addressing debris and fishing gear in Alaska is amazing. And by the way, I don't want any debris anywhere on our coastlines. I love nature. I love the coast. I shouldn't be garbage and crap out there. You should always leave your camping site or anything you do in nature better than you found it. That's a good rule to live by. It applies to people too and everything in life. But the rule is, we want to see people who are getting $5 million actually do things. Are they actually doing things, or is this money just going in to Sheldon Whitehouse's wife's organization's coffers? I don't know. Are there pictures of them with construction gear? Are there crews of hundreds of people going out and cleaning this stuff up? Let me ask this. How many tons of large debris did they clean up and actually remove? Anyone have any idea? I wonder if they report that. Let's see if they do. Says the grant was funded by the Biden administration, obviously, explaining that it was part of the bipartisan infrastructure law, a bill White House supported and voted for. In December 2024, Ocean Conservancy, they also got $1.7 million in federal funds from the EPA to assist with more debris. The grant was funded as part of the EPA annual appropriations bill, which White House also voted for, footnoted again. Now, while these two grants alone appear to be a conflict of interest since they're directly funding his wife, it's even more egregious in the context of Senator Whitehouse's long history of working on legislation being lobbied for by organizations tied to his wife. It's a repetitive pattern. Now, altogether, Ocean Conservancy has spent millions on federal lobbying expenses over the years on issues related to oceans, climate change, environmental cleanup, all those issues that White House stands on. Weird. So it's like that little cycle that we learned in grade school about the rain and the sun and evaporation and the whole, little diagram here. It's the same pattern. You see that White House's wife gets money from the government. Then she goes and says, oh, we care about issues. Then White House runs on those issues, and those entities that just got that government money, they fund and support White House because he cares about the same issues that they're funded to care about. It's this disgusting cycle, and around we go. Meanwhile, we're all getting crapped on, and they're getting paid for their campaigns and their issues, right? It's not going to cleaning up tons of garbage out on the ocean and the shore lines. It's to scream about climate change and ocean and the environment, and all of that is Democratic money for Democratic issues. The Ocean Conservancy urged Congress to pass the International Maritime Pollution Act, legislation that was introduced by White House. They go into wow, this guy's brilliant. He got us $7 million, so he's a genius, so we support his legislation. And all of that money that they use to go raise awareness, to go out and get money from donors or to just build their email list, is all then used to re-support White House. It's total corruption. Ocean Conservancy also advocated and secured billions in funding for coastal restoration projects in the Inflation Reduction Act. White House not only voted for that, but also touted $3 billion in grant funding for ports and coastal restoration among White House-backed measures in the bill. In addition to the Ocean Conservancy, the wife, Sandra Whitehouse, has been paid by other organizations that have lobbied the Senate on legislation as well, right? So it's just the same thing. Same thing that Joe was doing with Hunter, Senator Whitehouse is doing with his wife. Senators, they say, here's the law, buddy. You should have followed the ethics rules and disclosed this. Senate rules broadly prohibit senators from using any official actions that appear to provide a benefit to their spouse. Not allowed to do that. Rule 37 says, if you've got a pecuniary interest, no one shall knowingly use their position to further that interest for their immediate family member, anyone affected by your decision. In other words, you can't vote on legislation that's going to make your wife's conservancy get $14 million. Generally, the rules that address this, the fact that it's a benefit to a senator's spouse does directly benefit the senator, saying the ethics manual is clear. A senator should never use their prestige to give a benefit in what they're working on. Under the ethics manual, you may discipline them for any misconduct which does not directly relate to their official duties. And there's a conflict of interest here, saying White House directly voted for legislation that led to $6.9 million just recently of taxpayer money being paid to an organization for which his wife works and even gets paid. This circular relationship, just like the clouds and the sun and the rivers and the ocean, appears to be directly contrary to the Senate rules that broadly prohibit senators from doing this. As the Ethics Committee has stated, senators must closely guard against even the appearance that their family or friends are benefiting from them. And even if Senator Whitehouse believes that the federal funds are going to a worthy cause, the fact that a cause is worthy does not negate the duty to ensure compliance with the standards. At least report it, disclose it. This is exactly the type of a case that citizens view as a conflict of interest and leads to distrust that we have for our Congress. And we request the Senate Ethics Committee conduct a full investigation into Senator Whitehouse because at minimum, he has created the appearance of a conflict of interest. So beautiful letter drafted there. Executive Director, Foundation for Accountability and Civic Trust, Kendra Arnold, sending that one into the Senate, absolutely busting the very allegedly racist Senator Sheldon Whitehouse and his wife, who's getting rich off the government teat. All right, so good update over there. Now, a couple of short updates on some cases. Let's talk about what's happening with the special counsel and USAID. We'll hit the AP, and then we'll watch some Doge clips. But here is what is happening over from the special counsel's office, and this is just getting to be insane. As you can see, the fired special counsel is now launching an attack inside the Trump administration against the Trump administration because Judge Amy Berman Jackson shoved him back into power. The person responsible for this office currently, according to court order, even though he was fired by Trump immediately, is special counsel so-called Hampton Dellinger. And he just posted a statement here after the judge said he's back in power for at least a little bit of time. He's trying to bring back other people and shove them back in alongside him. He said this: last Friday, Hampton Dellinger filed initial requests to pause other terminations of other probationary employees. Okay, so Hampton Dellinger was fired. A judge shoved him back. Now he's trying to bring back everybody else who was fired, or at least this close group of people, seeking a stay, saying that there are reasonable grounds to believe that agencies fired them illegally, saying the Office of the Special Counsel doesn't typically comment on these things, but of course we're going to do that now. And consistent with our practices, we didn't comment, but since now everybody's talking about this stuff, we want you to bring back these employees, and so we're going to make the following statement. So we'll come back to his statement, but here is what they are what they're filing. This guy was fired, U.S. Office of Special Counsel, sending this in to the Department of Veteran Affairs. This is a complaint in front of the Merit Systems Protection Board. Remember, it was a unique entity set up for these types of disputes. And this guy was terminated by President Trump. A judge shoved him back in, and now he's filing this stuff on behalf of the government that he got fired from. This is an insurrection of a official government position and office called the Office of the Special Counsel. Trump fired this dude, and they're still filing motions fraudulently under the banner of the U.S. Office of the Special Counsel. It's hit a level of insanity. All of this was endorsed by a federal judge. And just to be clear, let's pull up the mind map so we can refresh our recollection on who this judge is and what these connections look like, because this case is at the Supreme Court right now. And so the mind map is loading for us, and what we can see is it is this case right here, Hampton Dellinger. This is Hunter Biden's former colleague. They went to law school together or worked at a law firm together. And he was fired. Judge Amy Berman Jackson, this Obama-appointed judge in the D.C. District Court, she brought him back on. Now, she scheduled this case for a hearing on a preliminary injunction. That's taking place tomorrow from this recording, February 26th at 10 a.m. The Supreme Court has also heard this case and said, we're not going to do anything until after this preliminary injunction hearing occurs. So we're going to read the Supreme Court decision coming up here as well. But Hampton is now submitting this because Amy Berman Jackson shoved him back in and said the office of the special counsel requests that they stay the probationary termination of former federal employees. Actually, one right here, former federal employee blank, saying the office requests this stay with other requests for these other people. Okay, so let's bring all of these people back. This guy was fired. He has no right to bring these people back or even to file these claims. His power as a special counsel was terminated by the duly elected president of this country. So wants to bring back this person, wants to bring back this person, wants to bring back this person, and this person, and this person. Collectively, the fired losers. Saying we need to shove them back everywhere. That he's trying to retake the government. It's like capture the flag. All these positions were gone. He's trying to bring them back. Says the Office of Special Counsel, that he is not lawfully entitled to, has reasonable grounds to believe the agencies that fired these folks engaged in prohibited personnel practices and now terminating complaints in violation of federal law. And so as a result, OSC has an obligation to request relief from the board where it's appropriate. And that's what they're doing now. So between these days, right, Trump came in, fired everybody. We got to bring him back. This is just a sample of what he has filed. Now, this is happening because the weak, spineless Supreme Court, probably because of Amy Coney Barrett, who said, well, it's not a final appealable order yet, is waiting for the preliminary injunction hearing to happen tomorrow. And so depending on the outcome of that proceeding, this may be moot after the hearing on the preliminary injunction. The judge could say, well, you haven't shown why you should be in this office, and so you're now done. Or you can be in this office more permanently, and so now Trump has an appealable order that he can take directly to the Supreme Court, which should overcome Amy Coney Barrett's objections. The Supreme Court could hear the case and then make some finality with a decision solidifying the unitary executive theory and getting rid of any limitations on the executive branch's ability to fire somebody from the executive branch. That is probably how it's going to go, but we got to wait till tomorrow. Now, in the meantime, this is providing him, Hampton Dellinger, with a blank slate to get in there and do this type of garbage, which is commandeering the office. And as we speculated, shredding emails, cleaning up a bunch of the mess, and usurping the presidential prerogative and control of the office. So he said, since the Civil Service Reform Act was passed, the merit system principles have guided how we can fire people. And so firing probationary employees without cause is contrary to a reasonable reading of the law. Okay, this dude is not the president of the country. He's acting like it. Says, and I have a duty to protect the probationary employees. So he's fighting to bring back his six co-henchmen with him back into the government. Now, the Supreme Court, of course, came out and issued this decision. Trump's DOJ was knocking on the door of the Supreme Court saying, every single day that goes by, you are allowing a judge called Amy Berman Jackson to take away the power of the executive branch illegally, unconstitutionally, and against the interest of Americans. And it is a reprehensible offense that should not be allowed to last for a single minute. But the Supreme Court said, well, we're just going to wait for a couple of days and we're going to let the lower courts work it out. Trump, of course, was appealing a traditionally non-appealable TRO. They were saying there should be a special exception for the executive branch when the executive branch gets hit with a nationwide TRO from some hack liberal district judge, that he should be able to appeal directly to the Supreme Court, lest we risk a constitutional crisis whereby the executive branch tells the district court to get bent and just does it anyways, without the full weight and power of the Supreme Court behind it. But the Supreme Court said the following. All right, this matter concerns the president's actions to fire Hampton Dellinger from his position as special counsel. Dellinger challenged his without cause removal in the district court for the District of Columbia. On February 12th, Amy Berman Jackson, the judge we just saw, appointed by Obama, entered a temporary restraining order, a TRO, providing that Dellinger should be in office until the later date. And remember how sneaky this was with Judge Jackson, because she actually set it as an administrative stay. I mean, to just make it immediate, shove him back in immediately. Then she basically converted that to a TRO. Now we're scheduled for a preliminary injunction, but this entire time, this dude has been in office against Trump's will and via our will. The district court has scheduled a hearing on that motion on February 26th, the same day the TRO expires. That's tomorrow. Pending before this court is the government's application to vacate that, right? Trump came back out, the DOJ, and said, what are you doing? This is ridiculous. Dellinger has filed a response. The government filed a reply. The question, therefore, is fully briefed, according to SCOTUS. Now, although it acknowledges that this court typically does not have appellate jurisdiction over TROs, in other words, we can't normally hear that at this stage, the government urges us to construe the TRO as a preliminary injunction, because that's basically what it is since she shoved him back into power. Or just consider it under the All Writs Act, saying, well, Congress, which establishes the jurisdiction of the courts, they say, well, under the All Writs Act, you could do that because the executive power is being hamstrung by a low-level district judge. Now, in his opposition, Hampton Dellinger repeatedly notes, he says, well, it's going to expire in 8 days from now. They wrote now 5. It's going to expire anyways. So don't worry about this. You don't even have to change all this law or find exceptions or do anything. Just wait. Hampton said it's going to expire on the 26th, so calm down. So, of course, probably Amy Coney Barrett, she said, well, in light of the foregoing, the application to vacate the order of Amy Berman Jackson, which is the district court level judge for the District of Columbia, presented to John Roberts and by him, is held in abeyance until February 26, when the TRO is set to expire. So we're going to see what Judge Amy Berman Jackson does. That will be tomorrow, of course. We're going to be here to cover that. So thanks for subscribing as we do. Now, 2 judges, the liberal judges, Sotomayor and Jackson, would deny the application, meaning they would tell Trump to just get bent. All right, you can't be heard at all. We've got 2 other judges who would dissent from this. We've got Gorsuch and Alito. They say, listen, until recently, Hampton Dellinger served as special counsel. He was the head of the Office of Special Counsel appointed by Biden. Now, that agency oversees the enforcement of various statutes governing the federal workforce. The special counsel is appointed by the president with the advice and consent of the Senate for a 5-year term. So then, on February 7th, the president removed Mr. Dellinger, says the Supreme Court, from office. Dellinger responded and sued the president and other officials, saying, you can't do this. The U.S. Code stops the president from removing him because you can only remove him for due cause. So Dellinger then also sought interim equitable relief, said, shove me back into office while this lawsuit unfolds, rather than suing for back pay or other damages. I'm entitled to my job. And we have, speculation as to why. So granting that request, the lower level court did issue a TRO directing Mr. Dellinger to continue and go back to the office. Over the judge's dissent, a panel of D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals judges said, we can't review a TRO. Sorry, it needs to be from a preliminary injunction, and only from the preliminary injunction can you appeal. The president and other defendants promptly filed an application to the Supreme Court asking us to hear it, which we are now. The court instead now holds the application in abeyance. Presumably, like the Court of Appeals, it harbors a concern that the TRO may not yet have ripened into an appealable order. Respectfully, says Gorsuch and Alito, I believe that it has, and that each additional day where the order stands only serves to confirm the point, especially now when this dude is filing lawsuits on behalf of the Office of the Special Counsel, from which he was fired. Unlike preliminary injunctions, of course, TROs are generally not appealable, but exceptions do exist, and preventing district courts from shielding their orders from appellate review is one of them. And as the dissenting judge, Judge Katz, has said in the lower level court, here there are powerful reasons to look behind the label, to acknowledge this TRO presently acts as a preliminary injunction, and to review its lawfulness. Now, as a starting point, writes Gorsuch, in that review, consider what we know about the remedy that Amy Berman Jackson created, what she cobbled together. The court effectively commanded the president and other executive branch officials to recognize and work with someone whom the president ordered removed and fired. Whether she calls it a TRO, a preliminary injunction, or whatever, that was an equitable remedy. And an equitable remedy is like an order forcing somebody to do something. We talk about it different than like a monetary remedy. Like sometimes you can just pay people money, that solves the problem. Other times people have to do something. The court has to step in, use the balance, the power of equity to create equitable solutions to order things to happen. This judge ordered this dude back in. Under this court's precedents, however, a federal court may issue an equitable remedy only if, at the time of the nation's founding, it was a remedy traditionally accorded by courts of equity that were set up for that. The limitation would seem to pose a problem here, okay? For courts of equity at that time of the founding were apparently powerless to restrain an executive officer from making a removal of a subordinate appointee. So in other words, you can't stop the executive branch from firing somebody. You hadn't been able to do it back in the founding era, and that means you can't do it now. No English case involved a bill or an injunction to stop the removal of a municipal officer. A Supreme Court case from 1888, taking us back through case law. We've had this as our precedent. You can't stop someone from firing somebody. There's 1888 case. And state courts denied the power of a court of equity to stop firings. Given that pattern of restraint by the 1880s, this court considered it well settled that a court of equity had no jurisdiction to stop the removal of public officers. Now, to be sure, throughout the nation's history, various presidentially appointed officials like Dellinger have contested their removals, and the courts have heard and passed on their claims. But those officials have generally sought remedies like back pay, just go get money, not reinstatement, and he cites two cases that show that. The closest the parties have come to identifying a precedent for what Amy Berman Jackson did is just a single unpublished district court decision purporting to stop the president from removing two other government officials, which was a November 1983 case from the District of DC. And that case involved members of a temporary multi-member agency. It wasn't an official like Mr. Dellinger, who wields significant prosecutorial and investigative power and runs a big 129-person agency. So in response to all of this, Dellinger stresses that the courts have traditionally entertained petitions for writs of quo warranto to decide which two of the claimants is entitled to an office. So two people are competing for this. But it's unclear how Dellinger might be able to defend the district court's exercise of its equitable remedial authority by pointing to a distinct legal remedy he never sought, the district court never invoked, and the procedures for which he did not follow. So he's like, well, I could have office under this other theory, but he's saying, okay, but you never brought up that theory, and it wasn't part of your original complaint, and there is a process for that other theory, which you did not meet. So this is the right analysis, clearly. I think the Supreme Court is ultimately going to come down to that conclusion, but they didn't want to jump ahead of the preliminary injunction. So that will be coming down the pike. We're going to wait for the Supreme Court to rule on that. And of course, we will cover it accordingly. So that is the Supreme Court's latest. The hearing will be taking place tomorrow. Of course, we're going to be here to cover the aftermath of that. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. Now we got some more updates here over from the AP. And this was fun. Caroline Levitt is excited and happy about this. So let's talk about the news media. The AP got blown out. They were demanding access to whatever they wanted in the White House, even Trump's private bedroom. Just kidding. But they wanted access to the Oval Office. Of course, the AP is not conforming to the new name of the Gulf of America. They're dead naming it. They're not honoring our lived experience, identifying it as a proper body of water that we hug from Texas to Florida, enveloping the region with MAGA love. They refuse to honor that name, and it's offensive. And so they have been thrown out of various proceedings that they'd like to cover. So what they did is they sued. A federal judge came back down, issued this very short order, and it's fun. Here is what the AP sent in their whiny request for a temporary restraining order. They said, let us back in. The AP and its attorneys, they moved for a temporary restraining order. They wanted President Trump to immediately rescind the ban on AP's access to the Oval Office, to Air Force One, and other limited spaces, when those same spaces are made open to other members of the White House press pool. Now, as set forth in greater detail in the memo, the AP meets the requirement, okay? They went through the requirements for a TRO, these 4 elements we've talked a lot about here over the last several months. They think that they're likely to succeed on the merits because it violates their rights. It is a violation of their constitutional rights, which causes an irreparable injury. And then they mash these 2 elements into just one, but you balance the equities and public interest. They say, Your Honor, we're harmed. It's harming our First Amendment rights. We're going to win. It's an irreparable injury. The public wants us in there. And it's only fair that you shove us back into Trump's Oval Office, since we're shoving special counsels back in. We're shoving Merit Service Protection Board individuals back in. The DC judges are ordering Trump to make payments, as we'll cover in another segment. But it's nonstop. They say, so shove the AP back in, Judge. The AP respectfully request our motion be granted and a restraining order requiring Trump to immediately rescind the ban to Oval, Air Force One, and other places. Make it happen, Judge. Signed by J. Ward Brown, working for Ballard Spahr out of Washington, D.C. and New York. So they sent that in, and the judge really didn't even care. Judge said, all right, listen here. Here's the order here. It's about a page and a half. The judge wrote this. The plaintiff, the Associated Press, moved for a temporary restraining order against the defendants, which are various White House officials, saying the AP asks the court to prevent the White House officials from, quote, limiting its, quote, access to the Oval Office, Air Force One, and other limited spaces. Saying, a party seeking a TRO must make a clear showing on these 4 factors, that when taken together, that they deserve relief. It's got to be likely that they'll win on the merits, that there will be irreparable harm, that they're going to balance the equities, and it's in the public interest, right? Now, the court has considered each of these 4 factors in lights of your briefs and the arguments presented by each side. And guess what? The court finds that the AP has not made the requisite showing and will thus deny the motion. The court has already ordered expedited briefing on your separate request for a preliminary injunction, but you lose. So that's it. For these reasons, it's hereby ordered. Your motion for a temporary restraining order is hereby denied. Signed by Trevor McFadden in a very short opinion, perhaps one of the shortest opinions we've read on these issues, not even entertaining it. I would have liked to know what his rationale was, but the last I checked, there was no additional memo or anything that was published on the docket. While we're here, let's just take a quick look and see if there was anything else that had come from him, but I do not believe so. Let's take a quick look and see anything else on that particular docket. No, just a transcript. So they lose. Order denying the motion for the TRO. Very short order. AP loses, and rightfully so. Here is what Caroline Levitt had to say in the aftermath of that.
And the winning continues here at the
That's
White
right.
House every day. Today, a federal judge right here in Washington, D.C., denied the Associated Press's emergency request for a temporary restraining order to restore their privilege of returning to the White House press pool. And the judge's denial of the Associated Press's request reinforces what I said from the podium last week and what President Trump has been saying. Covering the American presidency in the most intimate and limited spaces in this White House, in the Oval Office, on the Air Force One, is a privilege. It is not a legal right. And we want all voices to have that opportunity. And that's why we've expanded the James S. Brady briefing room to invite truly legitimate, independent journalists podcasters, and other media types into that room to cover this president with honesty and accuracy and with real mindfulness of what the American people actually care about. And
we're waiting for our official invitation, Caroline. Whenever you get to it, we'll be looking forward to seeing that one in our email inbox. She also shared this today, speaking about those White House correspondents associates that like to sniff each other at that association party, or they laugh at their terrible jokes. They got told today, here's what it sounded like.
As you all know, for decades, a group of DC-based journalists, the White House Correspondents Association, has long dictated which journalists get to ask questions of the President of the United States in these most intimate spaces. Not anymore. I am proud to announce that we are going to give the power back to the people who read your papers, who watch your television shows, and who listen to your radio stations. Moving forward, the White House press pool will be determined by the White House press team. Legacy outlets who have participated in the press pool for decades will still be allowed to join, fear not, but we will also be offering the privilege to well-deserving outlets who have never been allowed to share in this awesome responsibility.
Nice.
Just like we added a new media seat in this briefing room, legacy media outlets who have been here for years will still participate in the pool, but new voices are going to be welcomed in as well. As part of these changes, we will continue the rotation amongst the 5 major television networks to ensure the president's remarks are heard far and wide around this world. We will add additional streaming services which reach different audiences than traditional cable and broadcast. This is the ever-changing landscape of the media in the United States today. We will continue to rotate a print pooler who has the great responsibility of quickly transcribing the president's remarks and disseminating them to the rest of the world. And we will add outlets to the print pool rotation who have long been denied the privilege to partake in this experience but are committed to covering this White House beat. We will continue to rotate a radio pooler and add other radio hosts who have been denied access, especially local radio hosts who serve as the heartbeat of our country. And we will add additional outlets and reporters who are well suited to cover the news of the day and ask substantive questions of the President of the United States, depending on the news he is making on that given day.
All right, so Caroline Levitt explaining major media shakeup there in Washington, D.C. AP, very simple. Just report the truth and we'll let you back in. We don't want news agencies that spread misinformation and disinformation and can't even get the basic, simple facts right. It's Gulf of America. Once you change your official naming conventions, we'll welcome you right back in. But until then, you're banned. All right, so good updates there. Very short update here on this case. This is wild. So, okay, so there we go. All right, I was waiting for that. That was fast. All right, so notice of appeal has already been filed. This was very fast. All right, so strange things happening in Washington, D.C. This judge, Amir Ali, issued an order demanding that the State Department and Marco Rubio and the remnants of USAID turn around and fund all of these agencies that got cut off. Strange things happened today because there was a Zoom hearing, a telephonic motion hearing, where people tried to get access to the call to get in and Zoom in, who normally get access, and things were not working. Our friend Margot Cleveland, for example, said, "I am so angry the court's public hearing line wasn't working." It got cut off because the judge did something insane today and ultimately granted the people suing USAID, granted the motion to enforce the restraining order, which means, Kyle Cheney for Politico reports, he ordered, the judge, the Trump administration to pay, quote, all invoices and letter of credit drawdown requests for all work done prior to February 13th by 11:59 p.m. tomorrow night. Okay, the judge came out and said, you have to fund them by midnight tomorrow. That happened today. The judge says that the Trump administration can take no action to impede foreign assistance funds for work already completed. He's demanding by noon tomorrow, any internal guidance that the Trump administration issued to comply with his February 13th restraining order. Okay, obviously an insane ruling. This judge ordering the government, the executive branch, to disperse funds, regardless of any really thing that they care or consider. The judge is just making them pay. We've gone through this case quite a bit. Here is who this judge is. And you can see if we go back over to our mind map, the judge is Amir Ali. And it is this guy right here, Biden appointee, born in Canada. And the case was brought by Global Health Counsel. And there was another case that was brought by the AIDS doctors, this companion case. And so they were considering them together. The lawyers here are from Arnold, Porter, Kay, and Scholar. And so this is the guy who issued this order. So as we see, Rubio already appealed it. I was waiting for what the next step would be from the government. They've already filed their notice of appeal. Okay, very short filing as we'd expect. All defendants hereby appeal. Going up to the District of Columbia, we'll see some more rulings on this or some more filings, probably a request for a stay. And this one might go up to SCOTUS immediately too, because this is an insane order. And I actually think, as we've talked about in this pattern of cases, this is an overbroad trap. These judges are going absolutely nuts by ordering the State Department to pay certain things. Is going way beyond the scope of their power. And I think that they're getting trapped in these orders. So we're going to pay close attention to this one. Just a short update on it. I wanted to flag that for you because it's nuts. We also have more House representatives talking about impeachment. This is from Representative Andy Ogles, who wants to now impeach Judge John Bates, the judge who forced the Trump administration to republish the gender-affirming care government websites. They took down those websites and they're like, wait a minute. The doctor's like, well, we don't know how to, cut this or excise this or, chop that up, whatever. We don't know how to do it unless we have these websites on. The judge ordered the websites to go back on because the judge is in control of the executive branch, apparently, not the people of the country. So this representative called Andy Ogles, he's a representative representing Tennessee's 5th District. And he submitted these articles of impeachment. Says, I'm ready with this one. Says, this one is to impeach Judge Deacon Bates. Time to impeach the judges. This judge of the United States for high crimes of misdemeanors, saying Judge Deacon Bates, a judge of the United States District Courts for D.C., shall be impeached. This is an article, a resolution brought in the House of Representatives saying the following. Article 1. John Deacon Bates, a judge from D.C., engaged in a pattern of misconduct that is incompatible with the trust placed in him as a federal judge, saying he ordered the CDC, the Department of Health and Human Services, and the FDA to restore socially divisive and destructive LGBTQI plus expialidocious on taxpayer-subsidized government web pages. And Judge Bates, in granting a TRO to the far-left organization called Doctors for America, argued that by removing long relied-upon medical resources, each agency failed to examine the relevant data and articulate a satisfactory explanation for removing these websites, a substantial reliance that was used on by the trans doctors. Well, you didn't explain why you wanted to remove them. It's not good enough for me. I'm the president now. Judge Bates failed to consider that these web pages maintained information on gender-affirming care, better described as the surgical or chemical castration of children, and that at no time in the history of the American judicial system, until very recently, would judges have considered the purposeful damage to the bodies of healthy young men and women to be a compelling or even legitimate health concern. To the contrary, it is the opinion of this Congress that the continued socialization of this grave moral evil necessitates immediate action against those who would promote it. Woo! Accordingly, Judge John Deacon Bates has engaged in conduct so utterly lacking in an intellectual honesty and basic integrity that he is guilty of high crimes and misdemeanors and is unfit to hold the office of federal judge and should be removed from office with haste. So shout out to Representative Andy Ogles for keeping the pressure on these corrupt federal judges. They pretend like they're nonpartisan and above the board. They hide behind their black robes like cowards, and they engage in openly partisan behavior and look down their noses at us for criticizing them. We're not going to do that here, obviously, and neither should Congress. So we're excited to see that development is happening. Now, we've got a situation happening in Congress. Democrats in Congress are melting down over these cuts. When you take away the funding for their donors and their infrastructure, what else do they have left? They've got no policies. They've got no leadership. So it just usually devolves into a shouting match where they just scream about Trump and Elon and Trump and Elon. Well, that happened today, and it got a little bit spicy because chairman of the committee threatened at the end of this clip to remove this representative from the House because he was violating decorum. You can't personally insult people or call people names in the House. It's a general rule. You can say people are doing things or say that stuff looks like certain things, but you can't be accusing people of direct names. You can't call somebody, a loser or a bigot. You can say they're doing things that are kind of reminiscent of Loserville or kind of reminiscent of things. So you're supposed to have decorum. Mr. Frost didn't abide, and he got scolded for it, as he should.
People like the grifter-in-chief Trump and President Musk are openly using their public offices to enrich themselves to the tune of billions of dollars. So if we want to look at waste, fraud, and abuse, which I'm down to do, why is there complete silence on the other side of the aisle about looking at the complete grifter that is the President of the United States and the richest man on the earth, which is looking into things like Social Security and different things like that? Why don't we investigate the real corruption?
Hold off. Point of order.
I reclaim my time.
Point of order.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Hold off. There was a point of order when you said something. Who asked for it? Mr. Higgins, would you like to revise your remark with respect to improperly identifying the President of the United States?
I'll say President Musk and grifter-in-chief Trump.
All right.
Grifter-in-chief
Hey, Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Wait a second.
If I wanted to challenge someone to a fight, they would know it. Thank you.
Chairman, if Mr. Musk actually came here, then maybe the rules
All right.
of the committee
I heard
would
no
apply to
disparagement
him.
of the-
But-
I'll say something else.
We'll save a lot of time.
I'll say something else.
Okay, all right. We're going to let Chair recognize Mr. Frost. You still have 3:49. You're going to maybe revise the disparaging comment about the president because that's supposed to be our decorum here. And
It is supposed to be. President Musk and the President of the United States, Donald Trump, who is engaged in grifting of the American people, often use their public offices to enrich themselves. Someone on the other side was just asking, how would you feel if you called someone else from the
hold
other?
off, Mr. Frost. Hold off. There's a pending motion for disparaging the president.
I will say the president's grifting because you spent the last 2 years saying President
Take
Biden
down
was corrupt.
his words.
I can say that Trump is grifting. What I will withdraw
Remember-
is calling him grifter-in-chief. That is what I will
The chair
withdraw.
sustains the point of order, and the words in question are ordered stricken from the transcript of this proceeding. So the member is barred from further participation.
Crockett.
Insulting people's appearance as well as trying to fight them isn't a problem.
Point of order. It's a yes or no.
But we're so
Yes,
sad.
No.
Yes or no?
Order.
That our
Yes or no?
order.
You skip her.
So
Skip her.
sad.
Skip her. You're
My
skip
vote.
her. Go to the next one. Go to the next
The
one.
MSNBC anchor.
Go to the next one. Don't count that. Go to the next one.
Ms. Randall votes no. Mr. Subramaniam. Mr. Subramaniam votes no.
I want to say it's despicable that this committee is going to silence me for bringing
The
up
gentleman's
Trump's
words have been
Mr.
taken
Frost,
down. He is not
corruption.
permitted to
Frost.
speak for the rest of the hearing.
making millions of dollars.
Mr. Mr. Ranking Member, I'm going to have the Sergeant at Arms remove him if he doesn't refrain.
Oh, busted. Get out. You're supposed to have some decorum. This is Congress. Have some respect. Follow the rules. Thank you, James Comer, for throwing him out. or getting his booty out of there. Mark Wayne Mullen was over in the Senate talking about Doge and explaining how on the other side of the aisle, the Democrats, you have to understand where the Democrats are coming from. They're losing everything. Their whole lives were a giant fake facade filled with taxpayer dollars so that they could grift their entire political careers. They're losing everything. That's why they're so upset. Here's what Mark Wayne Mullen had to say about it today.
I want to take some time here because it wasn't where I was planning to go, but I just can't allow my colleagues on the other side to just spew 100% mistruths constantly and then play into the fear of the American people. And I'm just going to start first of all with our national security issues. National security issue one is our national debt. And our national debt is now costing us more to just pay interest than we spend on our military. That's a huge national security risk. And so at what point do we start making cuts? And people want to start talking about cutting 5,400 jobs out of the DOD as a whole when they have 950,000 employees and we're talking about less than 0.5% of the workforce. Where do we start cutting? We're spending trillions of dollars with agencies that are not unfunded, and you're going to tell me we don't have the ability to cut some employees when underneath the Biden administration it was bloated and there's not room to cut? When a company is going underwater, you do have to take a look at the workforce. I don't want to suggest that our country is going underwater, but if we continue this path, we will. And I commend President Trump and those that he has put in place to actually make hard cuts. Making cuts are difficult. It's tough. But when are we supposed to start if we don't start now?
Have to start now. We're doing it. The Democrats, of course, doing everything they can to stop it. Senator John Thune, the House Majority Leader in the Senate, got asked about this today, joined by Barrasso on his right, asked about who is actually making the decisions in all of these agencies. Is it Trump? Is it Elon? Are they the agency heads? How's it working?
Now that the majority of President Trump's cabinet nominees are confirmed, should they be the ones making the decisions on personnel instead of Elon Musk?
You know, I think that's why we work so hard to get these folks confirmed, and they're now in a position to make those decisions, and I think some of them already asserted that right to make those decisions. These are very capable people that are going to be responsible for running big departments and agencies and overseeing thousands of employees, and they ought to do everything they can to try and make their departments work more efficiently and to find savings. And in many cases, they are going to make those decisions on their own. And I think that's, if you've seen that already, some of them have asserted that right. And I think the administration, at least at this point, is providing some latitude for their managers of these departments and agencies to move forward.
All right, so responding to the email from Trump, we have Lisa Murkowski, who's still freaked out about it, says, you know, this is intimidation, not good.
The intimidation, if you will, that deliver these 5 bullets by Monday at noon, or you lose your job.
Yeah.
Again, if you want accountability, let's ask for accountability, but let's do that.
We just did with an email.
Through the proper chain.
What chain? We just did. Respond to the email or else. Here was one idea from House Representative Guam Capsize, a.k.a. Hank Johnson. He said this, that the U.S. Marshals should just go and just get Trump already.
If a president willfully failed or refused to comply with a court ruling, they could be held in contempt of court theoretically, but it would be up to the U.S. Marshals Service, which is a part of the Justice Department, to be the enforcement arm for the federal courts. Is that correct?
Your hypothetical would have to play itself out.
It would be the U.S. Marshals who fall under the Department of Justice who would have to carry out the contempt order. And so what would happen if the U.S. Marshals Service, under the command of the Justice Department at the direction of the president, refused to carry out a court order of contempt? What would then be the state of our democracy?
What would happen? Yeah.
Again, I'm here on behalf of the Judicial Conference to talk about the shortage of judges that we have, and I would comment on those needs in particular.
Look at this nice guy judge. I don't know anything about the dude. He's like, what? He's like, can we arrest? What would happen if he violated an order, Judge? Can we send the marshals to go? He's like, what are you even asking about, Hank? No, I don't know if Guam will capsize. Okay, I have no idea. Here was Hank before with the prior question about what would happen.
Fear is that the whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
We don't anticipate that. The Guam population, I think, currently about 175,000, and again, with 8,000 Marines and their families, it's an addition of about 25,000 more into the population.
Yeah, so the island's not going to tip over if the Marines go down there to Guam. Hank Johnson. All right, so that's what the Democrats got going for us. Meanwhile, we have a cabinet meeting happening tomorrow. President Trump is going to be there. Elon's going to be there. We got RFK. We got Pam Bondi. We got Tulsi Gabbard. We got the whole crew lining up. It's going to be amazing. Here is what what Caroline Leavitt said about Kristi Noem joining too.
Is Elon Musk going to attend the president's first cabinet meeting tomorrow?
He is, as a matter of fact. I spoke to the president about that before coming down here as well. And Elon, considering he is working alongside the president and our cabinet secretaries, this entire administration will be in attendance tomorrow just to talk about DOJ's efforts and how all of the cabinet secretaries are identifying waste, fraud, and abuse at their respective agencies. We look forward to the meeting tomorrow, and I think you'll be hearing from the president and his cabinet where they're on campus tomorrow. I hope you guys are excited.
So some of those cabinet members were caught off guard by the email from Saturday.
Nobody was caught off guard.
A few departments said they were caught off guard. The FBI was, the DOJ was.
Did anonymous sources say that, or did the cabinet secretary say that?
The cabinet secretaries and others have said that they were not aware that this was happening. So I'm wondering,
Who
will there be
said
a give and take tomorrow at the cabinet meeting? Is Elon Musk or the president open to any type of dialogue about who is actually in charge of the chain of command of these workers?
I would reject the premise of your question, Jeff. The cabinet secretaries have not said that. I know anonymous sources, probably career bureaucrats, have leaked that to many of you in this room. But as I said at the beginning of this press conference, everybody is working as one team, and the president respects the decisions of his cabinet secretaries to tell their staff, not to respond to that email because they did so out of interests of national security, and they don't want to obviously risk confidential information. It's pretty common sense.
Thank you, Caroline. It is pretty common sense, but not too common in the press corps. So we'll, of course, be here tomorrow. We'll see what comes of the cabinet meeting, one that Trump is actually going to lead, not going to have Jill Biden or Hunter Crackhead there running the show. And my friends, it's been a heck of a stream. So if you're just joining us, we're going to leave it there on the day. We covered some good ground to start the show. We had President Trump in the House, and he issued a new executive order that was smashing Jack Smith. Of course, that was from yesterday, but he was out today, press conference from the Oval Office, answered questions, signed an order going after those who were colluding with Jack Smith. And we covered that story previously, but it was this same law firm, Covington and Burling, who gifted Jack Smith allegedly $140,000. I would probably 10x that as a multiple of value delivered. 140,000 of maybe billable hours, but well over $1 million in value. If I had to guess, just pure speculation, but just had to guess. They didn't report the full amount of the deliverable. We talked about that. We talked about racist Senator Whitehouse and his wife being totally exposed and how she got millions of dollars to one of her conservancy groups called Ocean Conservancy. Who knows what the hell they did other than support green energy projects, which all supported Sheldon Whitehouse, her husband, as the grift continued. So we talked about that. We also got updates on what's happening with the AP. The AP, of course, continues to be banned. They submitted a whiny complaint. Let us in, put us in the judge didn't even entertain it. All right. This was so funny about this decision. It was just like a couple pages. You're done. You're not presented any case at all. We'll see you when you come back here for the preliminary injunction, and goodbye. Then we had Caroline Leavitt come out and explain her take on it. We saw that this insane judge called Amir Ali is now going to be ordering payments by midnight and noon, wants updates. And the Trump administration has already appealed this one, not even playing around on that. So that happened very fast. Lots will be back on that one tomorrow. Thanks for joining us as we do. Congress, meanwhile, is melting down, having to threaten to throw people out of there because they can't even follow basic decorum, typical of Democrats. But now, my friends, it's time to hear from you and see what you have to say about all of this. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for supporting our work. We appreciate you subscribing. Thank you for inviting a friend or family member to come over and join us when we go live here. It's a lot of fun to have some new friends in the house. Let's see who's here. Thank you to our amazing mods who mod the fort down for us and keep things oh so nice and orderly and beautiful around here as the show unfolds. We've got the Donut clipping for us. You're amazing. Thank you, Donut. Let's see who's here. Right here. Hey, that's right. It's Taco Tuesday, baby. With the Cookie Monster. There it is. The Cookie Monster. Mashing those tacos, man. I can't wait for some delicious tacos. Emmett Bishop. What's up, Emmett? Thank you for becoming a supporter on the YouTubes and joining up. Grab the members only stream from this morning, and we'll see you tomorrow for the members only stream. You too, Kelly Marjoram. Thank you for becoming a supporter. We'll see you back tomorrow. Glocky posted this on Local. Says, Comey is now under investigation for running an off-the-books honeypot operation against Trump in 2016. The FBI is now hunting for the two former FBI undercover operatives. That's from the Washington Times. We are going to see the motherlode from Cash and Pam. I cannot wait. Spud says, called it regarding Canada, Alaska to Alberta and the railway over there. Good to see you, Spuds. Ollie just brought in Leslie R. Thank you, Ollie, for doing that. Welcome, Leslie. More here is bringing in 5 more here. We got Sure Not is here. We got Inyo Base. We got Eclectic Deb. A. Baker is here. And K. Baxon in the house, courtesy of More Here, bringing in 5 more here. What's up, Deluxe Night? Says, am I the only one that has come across certain personal assistant prediction videos? That device believes that the USA will no longer be a country by 2031. It starts with making Canada our 51st states. Thoughts? Yeah, that sounds like a bad prediction. Yeah. I don't know. Hopefully we're around in 2031. That's my only thought on that one. So in other words, Canada will be our downfall? Could be true. Quad Cam. Weird how these glitches always go one way. Apple pledges to fix a transcription glitch that replaces racist with Trump. Yeah, how is that not intentional? Obviously that's intentional. And Apple will just look the other way. I don't know how it happened. Well, some employees did it. That's how. Wild Things Forever says, meant to send my message with this tip. Says, I'm in. 51st state sounds fantastic to me. I can't imagine a better leader than President Trump to save Canada from what seems to be a failing communism. Please save us. So this is one Canadian. So much tax, it's impossible to save money. Plus inflation, right? You get hit from both ends. We have it here. And don't get me started on freedom of speech. I'm almost worried about sending this text. Says, yeah, I'm in. Oh, thank you for that. Wild Things Forever. I'm sure, man. There's many Canadians. The problem is we don't want a bunch of blues. We don't want to turn this country blue. So you guys, I don't know. Like you don't have electoral votes or something. I don't know what to do. Hey, this one. Da Hook says, Rob, look who else works at Covington. Mrs. Warmonger herself. Victoria Newland works at that law firm. Incredible. It's like, deep state lawyers. What's up, Will Crump? Will SCOTUS now step in, send special counsel force back in the DOJ? Is countermanding Trump's firings? Will they side with unelected judges? We'll know more tomorrow. They are staying this, holding it in abeyance until tomorrow. So the Supreme Court might give us more tomorrow. We'll see. Chubby says, if Smith & Co. related the precedents of piercing Trump's attorney-client privilege, can't the DOJ just use that against this law firm that gifted Smith that legal advice? Yeah, I think you're right. They could. See, the problem here is that they had the corrupt DC judges. They had Judge Beryl Howell, who was responsible for a lot of those violations of privilege. And so they wouldn't do the same thing. They wouldn't collude with the Trump DOJ to go after the left. They are the left. Right now, they're working against Trump. So that is premised on the fact that you've got compliant judges and they don't. Chubby created, got it. We got it, Chubby. We're picking up what you're putting down, my man. Thank you for those. Those two donos. We love those typo correction donos. You know, it's like a 2-for-1. We appreciate it. I'm just joking. Nacho Valdez. What's up, Nacho? Thank you for becoming a membo. Grab the stream from this morning. We covered some good stuff. This morning, we talked about this little battle that's brewing. I don't know if you guys saw that. Between Bondi, Representative Luna. Luna's like on the attack, going after Bondi. Like, where are the files? Where are the files? We went through that today. What's up, Ed? Bringing in 10 membos. Thank you, Ed, for doing this. Look who's coming in. Ed, 2276 brings in Ken L. Just for crafts and giggles. PK is here. Invictum Lupus. We got Jerry. Diane S. Bria. Charlie Don't Surf. Travis Pritchard and Thumper 2112 in the house, courtesy of Ed. Thank you, Ed, for bringing in 10 new friends. And welcome aboard, new friends. Ed also, with a comment, says, yeah, the TRO in the preliminary hearing on Hampton Dellinger is tomorrow. Fire him immediately for insubordination. Have the deputy withdraw the suit. Well, so the judge shoved him back, right? So that would be in violation of the court order. Like, they've already fired him. The judge put him back, said, give him access to these things. So that's the predicament. And then they went to the Supreme Court to undo what the judge did. They said, nope, he stays in there until the hearing. Hearing is tomorrow. So lots going down tomorrow. We're looking forward to it. Thank you for being here, Ed. Thanks for supporting us today. Albert Chrisman says the only minority at White House's wife's country club is Cleveland Brown from Family Guy. I remember Cleveland. Yeah, he's a good character. Family Guy's a pretty funny show. I don't know if it's still funny, but I remember like the old days. I was like, dang, I can't believe they're saying that on TV right now. It's crazy. It's good times. Hey, J-Mac, what's up? Rob, can't they just cite Spricer versus Biden, which allows POTUS decisions to have finality to it? I think, yeah, Sean Spicer will be set as precedent. Yeah, I think that is another example of that. Although Spicer, I think, was in a different position. Like, I don't think Spicer's position had the same shackles that the OSC has. In other words, Congress passed laws that said you can only fire the special counsel for X, Y, and Z. And I'm not so sure that Spicer's position had those same limitations. Maybe it did. I don't know. I don't know the case that well. But J-Mac, I think it is analogous. And Biden also did the same thing with the Social Security Administration and nuked that person too. So there is precedent. I think the Supreme Court is ultimately going to come down on our side of this, but it's going to take some time. Hey, what's up? Will Crump says President Trump now has due cause to fire Dellinger. Insubordination by countermanding the firing of probationary employees. I know, but he can, I think, according to the judicial order, he can do whatever he wants. He's got an order to be there. Trump has no say for whatever reason, because the Supreme Court and Judge Amy Berman Jackson want it that way. Honestly, like, could Dellinger commit fraud and keep his position? Could he commit a bunch of crimes? Trump would have to go back to the judge and say, he's committing crimes right now. The judge would have to review it and then make a decision. She doesn't care. Didn't even take it into consideration. Says Pinochet, man, it would be a shame. What's up, Pinochet? We got NY says, so this Office of Special Counsel filing action is like your own attorney filing motions against you. Yeah, that's right. Trump's Office of Special Counsel is suing to bring back people that Trump fired against Trump's will. Trump, of course, empowered by the American people via an election that the civil servants are now suing to stop. This is precisely the reason why the Supreme Court needs to strip TROs from actions against the government when the government is the defendant, or they should allow the TRO to be appealable. Yep, you're right. And why? Basically the same argument that Gorsuch was making. Gloria, what's up, Gloria? Bringing in Elizabeth F. in the house. Thank you, Gloria, for doing that. Welcome aboard, Elizabeth. We got Pam running. What's up, Pam? 20 months as a membo, coming up on our 2-year anniversary. Thank you, Pam. We've seen some serious business here together. We appreciate your support all these months. Colleen says, I'm starting to worry about the Supreme Court over on locals. Nice to see you, Colleen. Says, if this guy is allowed to override the president, doesn't that make the president and his executive power taken away? If the dude can do whatever he wants now? Yep, nailed it. That's why we're knocking on the Supreme Court's door saying, can you help us, please? Michael Swade on Rumble. What's up, Michael? Thanks for supporting us on Rumble. Says the U.S. District Judge. Just ordered Trump to resume accepting refugees. Jamal Whitehead, that's the name of a judge? I didn't know that name. Ordered Trump to resume accepting refugees. There's a lot of orders going. Thank you, Michael Swade, for flagging that one for us. I'll take a look at that one. I saw there were several things that happened today, but I don't recall that one. But thank you for that. NY says, hey, Judge Amir. NY says, Judge Amir is a Canadian. By the way, made a huge error. A Canadian, by the way. He is Canadian. It's weird, right? Mercan's not from the United States. Chutkin is not from the United States, I don't believe. Amir is not from the United States. It's just interesting how that works. The initial order says clearly that the federal government is allowed to exercise the provisions of each contract. He's a dummy, and now as MAGA trained on him, the Supremes will reverse him for obvious errors in his rulings. Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Oh, man, this is backfiring on us, guys. Knox, defense attorney in Texas, says, happy Taco Tuesday, all. You know, this could be a problem. Trump just got fired because he forgot to respond to Elon's email. He was so busy fighting against the deep state, he doesn't even hardly use email. Trump's out. Oh, man, that didn't last long. Thank you, Knox. Oh, well. Tony Hay Munkets said maybe they can bring him back. They can rehire him. They can just rehire people. It's not that big of a deal. Hey, Tony Hay Munkets, bringing in average week. Tree Climber, Nina Shah, Urali Plans, and Misty in the house, courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets. Hey, it's the Munkets. Thank you, Tony Hay. What's up, Ed? Ed, thank you for this one. Are separate plaintiffs allowed to file a TRO against freezing U.S. aid before Judge Ali if another party has a pending TRO before Judge O'Connell over the same U.S. aid subject matter? So they are consolidating cases. And the Ali hearing today, I do believe, was 2 cases. I don't know if it was the Judge O'Connell case in particular that got combined. But yeah, they're combining them, essentially. If they're making similar claims. Like if two plaintiffs are both saying, our money got cut off, they'll consolidate those. And as long as both of those complaints are, attacking kind of the same memorandum, executive order, and they are. Object Class Keeter says, I personally think impeachments should say violation of the constitutional separation of power and abuse of power as the high crimes. I agree, actually. Yeah, I agree. It's like, well, you can say it's equivalent to a high crime or misdemeanor because it's an intentional abuse of office. And I think you could even go back to the U.S. Code and just go under that statute. So I agree with that. We'll see more. Hey, Tree Climber is here, bringing in 5 new membos. Thank you, Tree Climber. Look who's here. Heath Wilson. We got Johnny's Appleseed. We got another Johnny in the house. 2 Johnnies. Jerome is here, and Ashton, gifted membos, courtesy of Tree Climber, like this very cute panda climbing up that tree. Thank you, Tree Climber. Hey, JB is here. The GOP and their conservative enablers are the bane of liberty. Absolutely useless. I know, it's always like that. It's like, we're just waiting for the Republicans to shove some stupid provision in the bill that reinstitutes all U.S. aid, right? You're like, well, we need it to our government, country. I know, JB. We got to keep the pressure on them. Amazing Trace. How sweet the sound. Membo for 8 months. 1 more month, and we got a full baby, a new Watcher baby coming soon. Amazing Trace. We cannot wait to celebrate. Thanks for being here and supporting us for 8 months. You're amazing. NY. On X, it's pointed out what bad luck the administration has with some judges recently. Somehow, 5-6 times getting Biden or Obama judges. The process of judicial selection is not transparent. Congress must investigate this rigged system. Colleen says, do we need to send the Democrats back to kindergarten to learn the golden rule I was taught? LOL from Colleen. Yeah, it's like, and you hear the Democrats like, we didn't insurrect your country. Like, we're good losers. You guys were poor losers. You lost the election and you tried to insurrect the whole country in a 4-hour riot that was over. They voted that same night. Relax. They're launching a legal onslaught to undo the will of the American people every single day in the courts of law. And they're doing it to protect their power center. And then they lecture everybody like they're better than you. It's the typical Democratic playbook. Knox says, these Dem maniacs will keep printing money until we're like the Weimar Republic, and I will need a wheelbarrow full of money to pay for parking downtown. I no longer want any of these people to be in my employ. They all need to be fired. I can buy like a zillion lattes with the money that we spend on them. It's true. Yeah. And that would be much better served than transgender performances in the sub-Sahara. Sheila Pooh, a million hugs to you. Thank you, Sheila, for bringing in 10 membos. We got Josh Bolt is here. Matthew Moreau, Esmeralda Real, Amanda Mandy Marr. We got Designed Audio in the house. What's up, Salty Witch? Welcome. Compiled Tech, Kim Allen, Hound Lover, and Judge Dreads gifted membos, 10 of them, courtesy of Sheila the Pooh. A million hugs to you. Thank you, Sheila, for bringing our new friends in. Hey, what's up, Bonnie? Says, this is the waste the VA found. It's 2 minutes long. It's a message over on YouTube from Secretary VA Collins. $2 billion in cuts and contracts will be redirected to veterans' health care and benefits. Amazing. And that's exactly what we want. We're okay spending money on Americans for good American reasons. That's what we want to see. Thank you, Bonnie. One Old Guy's Opinions on YouTube says, SCOTUS, quote, conservative judges better have the intestinal fortitude to strengthen us a constitution by striking down all of these lawsuits. Will they allow the executive branch turn it into a figurehead like Biden is? Yeah, where basically the courts just are in control of the country via TROs. I don't think so. I don't think it's going to stand, to be honest. It's taking our time. We got to get through this TRO stage, get to the preliminary injunction stage. We're getting there tomorrow with one of them. The rest of them we're working through. We're about 30 days out. So we were always going to go through this. Here we are. I think SCOTUS will settle it once and for all. Ed, the issue was he was fired without cause. Now he has given the president cause. It's a different act than the subject of the first claim, right? No, I don't think so. I mean, yes, but you'd still have to overcome the judge's order. So like, then you'd go back to the same judge. You'd say, Judge, okay, now there's insubordination. He's arguing against the probation. So it's like another, she would still say, well, practically, by the way, I think even in that case, like he has to provide notice to Congress on that second claim. So like, I guess Trump could fire him again. He would file the same claim. He'd say that it's not actually cause because the probation, the employees were illegally fired, right? So in other words, it's not lawful cause. It's not insubordination because I have an obligation as special counsel to do what I'm doing, to investigate corruption within the government. So he'd say that can't be cause, essentially, because it's illegal. So I mean, I get your point. It's like, can you just fire him and file different reasons? The judge would come back, and it's like, it's the same argument that we were making in the other claims, right, Ed? If it's independent source theory is essentially what you're asking about. If Trump issued an OMB memo to cancel U.S. aid, they said, well, you can't use the memo to cancel aid. Okay, no problem. I'll use this other provision of the law to fire him or to cancel the aid. And they're moving forward on that. Then the other judges are just kind of expanding it, right, as we've seen. No, but you can't do that. You can't do this. And we just saw from Ali, you have to give the money back now. It's like wild. So Trump could use an independent source theory to also justify the firing of this special counsel. He's going to run into the same roadblocks with the same judge. But it's a great question. And I like how you're thinking tactically to go out there and to try to get around the judge. But they're ultimately bundling it all up into one anyways. Sharpie Guy says, as always, Rob, great coverage. Serious question. Where does this lawfare against Trump and our will end? Well, at the Supreme Court, hopefully. So tired of these clowns already. Be prepared, watchers. Defend yourself no matter what. Yeah, and we got to stay plugged in. We got to stay vigilant. I think keeping the pressure on the congressional Republicans and on the Democrats. Like if you're somebody who speaks about this stuff or posts about this stuff or creates content yourself or even, just posts amongst your friends or in group text or whatever. But this is a critical time right now. We got to establish this baseline, which will set a strong foundation for future success. And that's where we're at right now. So hang tight. I think the Trump administration is in a good position, to be honest. I think that they're overextending themselves. These judges, they're all being baited into, it's not like they're encroaching. They're not just borderline violating the separation of powers. They're like stepping across it. They're like jumping, pole vaulting across the separation of powers line. It's bad. Hey, Spuds. Rob, I wouldn't worry about the Western provinces and territories in Canada being blue. Even if they were to be annexed, they would be treated like territories, like Guam. Like they would capsize. And American Samoa. Look how long it took Arizona to become a state. It was the last one in the lower 48 after 51 years. It took forever. I know. Thank you, Colleen. Says, learning a lot more watching you than I ever did in government class. Yeah, me too. I learn a lot here too. We're learning all this together, man. We're going through it together. They don't teach you a lot of this, even in law school. It's like, holy crap, I can't believe people are so corrupt. Yeah, it's real. One old guy's opinions. Special counsel is giving Trump legal team ammo for insubordination, which is making a peon special legal ed counsel the president's boss. It's backward activists, and they must be held accountable. From one old guy's opinions. Yeah, I think that they're essentially being baited, right? The judiciary has now become de facto president, and the Supreme Court will not let that stand. They can't, because they have to care about the institution of the presidency and not the particular president. Pinochet. Thank you, Pinochet. Rob, okay, a more stream-friendly question. I know, Pinochet, they've been spicy lately. Yesterday's especially. I was like, golly. What is your opinion on citizen-initiated grand juries? Should the people of all states have the ability to bring charges when a corrupt government will not? Well, I think like anything, it's the mechanism that is where people will have the disagreements on something like this. Like, obviously the answer is yeah. Like, should the people be able to stop corruption? Like, yeah, like it's kind of the promise of our country. It's like, we're the people, we have a check, it's a democratic republic. So we have a mechanism by which we bring those things. And I guess if the current system, like if you're saying, hey, like, why don't we just get a bunch of people together to like create a committee to bring charges against somebody? I don't know how you govern that accordingly. And how do you stop anybody from just forming, a grand jury to bring charges against somebody? So it's like, I guess it would be a much broader conversation about what are the boundaries of this? How many citizens do you need? How does it work? Because we have that now, right? The citizens elect somebody to be our representative, to look at all of the investigations that are happening by the cops. And when something pops up pursuant to the laws that we've created as a citizenry, we say, that's a bad thing. We want that to be stopped. We vote on it. That gets passed into the law. Okay, there's a law in the books. So now what do we do? So that's kind of the current system we have. And you could say it is citizen initiated since we have some say in the matter. But I guess the other idea is that the current system works in a way in such that we elected Trump, and now Trump can clean house, and he is. So is that a citizen initiated series of reforms? So again, I think that the devil's in the details on something like that, Pinochet, but thank you for the nice stream appropriate question. Sharpie, sharp dressed man, sharpening man in Texas, bringing in 5 membos. Thank you, sharpening man. Noel West is here. Jonathan Venstra coming in. We got Michael Myers. Cat for Hair is here. And Lynn F. All gifted membos, courtesy of Sharpening Man in Texas. Thank you, Sharpening Man. One old guy's opinions says activist judicial insurrectionist district judges shall be impeached for insurrecting the will of the people. It's happening. There's already some efforts afoot, as we saw from Representative Andy Ogles today. Hey, what's going on, Sharpie guy? Says, Rob, you've baited the water enough already. Where are the recipes? Got to talk to Mama G. Just like that, sir. No more sharp knives for Mama G. And also wants to know about wedding plans? Oh my goodness, these are some very serious, very in-depth questions, Sharpie guy. Meatball recipes and wedding plans. We'll have to leave that for another stream. Lady Ice says, this judge ruling business is scary stuff. This is exactly what they did in Brazil, and now the judges have all the power. Yeah, and we definitely don't want that situation, which is why the Supreme Court has to come in and correct the record. What's going on, Colleen Page? Thank you, Colleen. Welcome aboard. Thanks for becoming a supporter. Thank you, membos, for supporting our work, for becoming membos, getting some extra streams. Thank you to everybody who invited some new membos in to come join us. We try to deliver for our membos. We do. It's not a try. We do. Streams in the mornings, streams on Saturdays, and we have an amazing community. So thanks for joining on YouTube. Thanks for joining on Locals, watching thewatchers.locals.com, or on YouTube. Click that join button, and we'll see you tomorrow morning. But my friends, okay, we are going to leave it there on the day. Let's say hello to our friends on X very quickly, and then we'll go over to Locals and say what's up to our Locals friends. On X, we got a couple of great comments. What's up, Fred? I've been screaming about these judges for years. We got Rella Bella says the Democrats are dangerously responding to their grift ending. It's time to investigate. Jody says, make sure to hit the like button. Says, super late. The wife and I are rewinding to the beginning. What's up, Jody? Shout out to you and your wife. Brandy Coffee sharing this one. It's Trump dancing to the Gulf of America. Beautiful dance. And Objective Journalist saying, these judges are abusing their power. We've got Adele says, Trump should make Dellinger's return miserable by assigning people to follow his every move. And yeah, we're keeping close eyes on every single computer keystroke that Hampton Dellinger has when he's back in office. What is he shredding? What is he deleting? Where are the files? Sharpie Guy says, come on, watchers. Let's apply some pressure. Make sure that you're staying on your Congress people to not get squirrely, especially when we've got this big congressional vote coming soon. All right, so thank you to our friends on X. Great to see everybody over there. We are wrapping it up for the day. Want to shout out to our amazing mods, K Bean in the house, Donut Mind Me, Carrie B, Playing Hooky, Dog Digger, and Janek. Modding the fort down for us. Keeping things oh so nice and beautiful around here. We are going to pause there for the evening. Of course, we're going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our Locals friends. If you're a member over there, we'll see you there. Hang out for a bit. Otherwise, my friends, that's going to be it for us on the day. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks for your support. Thanks for liking the video before you head out of here. Thanks for subscribing if you haven't done so already. We are coming back tomorrow. Same time, same place. And we're going to get into it again. And in order to do that appropriately, well, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.